Once again, live from Washington, D.C., your host, Mike Farrell.
With all the UFO sightings reported over the years in America, the logical question is, if they really exist, why don't they visit the White House? And then there they were, all of a sudden, on July 26, 1952. The Air Force tried and failed to intercept up to a dozen UFOs in the sky over the White House. The press conference 2 days later became the largest media event since the end of World War II.
We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States.
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin.
In my position in the Research and Development Organization of the Bureau of Aeronautics and of the Navy Department, I am thoroughly familiar with both our aircraft and our guided missiles programs and can state without reservation that the Navy has no saucer-shaped aircraft or missile in any of these programs.
Headlines around the country aroused so much attention that the Air Force formed an official investigative unit, Project Blue Book. With me now are two retired Air Force colonels who were actively involved in that inquiry. Colonel Robert Friend, who headed up Project Blue Book for 5 years, and Colonel William Coleman, a former Air Force squadron commander who was Pentagon spokesman and chief of public information for the Air Force. Colonel Friend, Colonel Coleman, welcome. Gentlemen, has the Air Force been involved with UFOs before the White House incident?
During World War II, our pilots saw what were called gremlins and Foo Fighters. These were fireballs that appeared to fly along with our aircraft.
We were concerned that these so-called Foo Fighters or fireballs might be foreign weapons that could threaten our national security.
And did the Air Force ever try to chase a UFO?
Yes, in fact, in 1948, one of our pilots crashed in pursuit of a UFO. The story made headlines all over the world.
As I understand it, that crash added impetus to the conclusion that UFOs were extraterrestrial visitors.
That's true, but the Air Force rejected the conclusion on the grounds of insufficient evidence. Even the name of the project was changed from Sign to Grudge during that period to preclude this unhealthy association. However, by the time Blue Book was involved, we started running into trouble. Hearings and inquiries regarding the way in which we were performing UFO investigations, in every instance, the Congress of the United States concurred in the way in which we conducted these projects. However, we were not disappointed with the 1969 decision to discontinue Project Blue Book.
Out of the 12,000 reported UFO sightings, only 700 remain unexplained. Of that remainder, 100 of them really worried us.
Why was that?
Because these 100 sightings involved the two criteria that defined a worrisome phenomenon: high strangeness and high credibility, meaning that highly credible, multiple witnesses, like military airline pilots, see something they've never seen before.
Have either of you ever seen a UFO?
Yes, it was 1955, and I was a squadron commander at the time. We were flying a B-25 over Alabama when we spotted a strange silvery object some 25,000 feet above us, heading in the same direction. Since we were overtaking it, I changed course and eventually got within 1/8 of a mile of it, literally right on top of the thing.
So you must have gotten a fairly good look at it.
We certainly did. The whole crew. It was wingless, a disc some 70 feet in diameter, 15 feet thick at the center, your average run-of-the-mill flying saucer.
Well, what happened then?
It performed an astonishing maneuver. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone. But we chased it and caught sight of it again. It was skimming over a farmer's field, kicking up vortexes of red dust as it flew. We closed in on it from behind the trees, but it vanished.
Did you make a report of this incident?
We all wrote up reports. I was later debriefed by an intelligence officer. And years later, when I was on Project Blue Book, I tried to find my report. It was not in the files.
Not in the files. Now, you say you saw this object at point-blank range. Could it have been a balloon or an experimental aircraft?
Absolutely not. It displayed a level of technology far beyond anything I had seen on the Earth then and now.
With this advanced level of technology, were you ever concerned that the object could be a threat to national security?
No, not necessarily a threat to our national security, but I was uneasy about these UFOs because they were able to accomplish aerial feats that we couldn't. The apparent capability of these objects could possibly represent a threat to our national security.
What's become of Project Blue Book?
That's it, Mike. It was canceled in 1969 and will not be reactivated.
Well, Colonel Coleman, Colonel Friend, thank you both. And while we're on the subject of Blue Book, Let's hear another view from a scientist currently working for the government. Now, because he has insisted on anonymity, both his appearance and his voice have been altered, but his credentials have been thoroughly researched by the investigative team of Bill Moore and Jamie Chandray. They've given him the code name Condor.
Project Blue Book was just a very low-level effort by the Air Force to collect information on sightings. It had a very minimal staff of one officer, an NCO, a secretary, and a scientist. The interesting, most exciting reports that came into Blue Book were often siphoned off by what they call moles within the organization. Those reports were pulled out of the files and never returned and just simply sent forward. The whole effort, as far as Blue Book was concerned, was that they tried every way they could to simply dismiss and explain away sightings. They certainly didn't want unknowns. The effort of Blue Book was to minimize the effects of these reports and to try to explain away as many as they could. And of course it worked. It worked in the fact that it closed down Project Blue Book and terminated the Air Force's involvement, official Air Force involvement, public involvement with the subject of UFOs. Of course, we know that they carried on with a covert operation after that.
When Blue Book closed down, the official U.S. government position was that UFOs didn't exist, and Americans accepted this contention as fact. Or did we?
Do you hear something?
Hear what? I don't hear.
Listen.
Subsequent reports were discredited, relegated to the tabloids at the supermarket checkout counter. After Blue Book's final report, anyone who claimed to see a UFO was considered some kind of nut.
It was a saucer. We saw it. We heard it, both of us. What more do we need to know?
Well, we have to have time to think, to evaluate this before we sound off.
So most sightings go unreported, particularly sightings by aircraft pilots.
Could be a satellite.
Aries 31, I have the primary target now in your 10 o'clock position, 5 miles off.
I've never seen one like that. About an SR-71?
The traffic is proceeding northeastbound, no altitude readout.
Roger, Senator. Traffic's really moving now. It's going to be a problem now. You send about 1,500 feet below me. Wait a second. Stand by one. Okay, Senator. Aries 31, the traffic is turned. He's heading right for my windshield. We're turning right immediately and leaving flight level 350 now.
Aries 31, descend and maintain flight level 310. Break, Allegheny 444, turn right 30 degrees.
Get on to order the 45th recon wing. See what the hell they could be testing up there.
An Aries jet descending to maintain
This is Indianapolis Center. Do you have any test operation to restricted area 2508?
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over.
Negative. We don't want to report.
Aries 31, do you wish to report a UFO? Over.
Negative, we want to report one of those either.
Aries 31, me neither. I'll try to track traffic to destination. Over.
With me now are Dr. Richard F. Haynes and Captain Neil Daniels. Dr. Haynes, now retired, directed research and development projects at NASA's Ames Research Center for 20 years. Welcome, Dr. Haynes. Captain Daniels. Dr. Haynes, tell us about pilot sightings that you've been studying.
Well, Mike, I've dealt with over 3,000 pilot cases from all over the world, including some very skeptical pilots, I might add, who have since seen a UFO and completely changed their minds and risked their reputations.
Why do you limit your research to pilots?
Well, because pilots are very reliable and credible witnesses, Their jobs and their lives of their passengers depend on them. They must be aware of what's going on in the skies around them. Unfortunately, most of them ask for anonymity.
Really, why is that?
Well, I think it's because of fear of ridicule, or worse, fear of losing their jobs.
I mean, no airline wants to be promoted with the slogan, "Fly us and see a UFO." Might increase business. Fortunately, we do have a pilot who has come forward and has enough courage to share his experiences. Captain Neil Daniels, who flew for United Airlines for 35 years. Captain Daniels, thanks for being here. Would you tell us about your experience with a UFO?
I was piloting a flight from San Francisco to Boston on March the 12th in 1977. And at an altitude of 37,000 feet, I became aware of a blinding, bright white light out to the left of the DC-10. I estimated it to be at about 1,000 yards, and I don't know, the object could have been several hundred feet in diameter, but it didn't read on ground radar.
Could you tell what it was?
No.
Could it have been a commercial flight or a military aircraft?
Absolutely not. At the speed at which it departed, I've never seen anything like it.
Was this object in any way a threat to your plane?
The three compasses were indicating opposite directions, and the plane was veering off and banking to the left by a strong magnetic pull.
Well, how did you and your crew react?
The flight engineer kept repeating, I don't want to see it, I don't want to know about it.
I don't want to know about it. Did you file a report?
It was a short layover, and the FAA would have hassled me all night, so I let it go.
So that was the end of that?
Yes, but 6 months later, I was on a hunting trip with my boss, and I told him the story, and he said, "Gee, I'm sorry you told me that. Strange things happen to people who have these sightings."
Strange things? Like what?
Well, in my experience, people are fearful of losing their jobs or being transferred.
So much for telling the truth. Well, thank you, Dr. Haynes, Captain Daniels, for coming forward on UFO Cover-Up. Incidentally, Captain Daniels now lectures at San Francisco's Fear of Flying Clinic. I mean, flying airplanes, not flying saucers.
This is American Flight 812 requesting... Holy mackerel.
Burbank Tower to American Flight 812. Are you in trouble?
Trouble?
Take a look for yourself.
What in the world?
That's nothing from this world.
Coming up, a startling report live from Moscow.
Not only did the pilot and the crew see that UFO, but also many of the passengers of the plane.
My father drove a Starship, so it's only natural I'd fly around in something space age. My new Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, totally redesigned for the future. It's powered by a fuel-injected V6, monitored by an onboard computer. I guess some things were just meant for the next generation. This is not your father's Oldsmobile. Ready, Dad?
I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
Steady as she goes.
This is the new generation.
One of the all-time greats.
New Quaker Extra Instant Oatmeal. You want to know what's extra about it? Extra vitamins. You get extra vitamin A, extra B6, C, E, extra iron. You get all the nutrition of oatmeal, plus a whole day's worth of all this stuff. What's it taste like? Tastes like good, hot Quaker oatmeal. Oh, one more extra. Your choice of fruit. New Quaker Extra. It's the right thing to do, and a new way to do it.
10 years ago, Halloween, evil had a shape, terror had a night, and now he's back. Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers, rated R.
Starts Friday, October 21st.
When we made Heinz Homestyle gravy, we used a homemade recipe like yours.
Oh, really?
Real beef juices just like yours.
Oh, yeah? But where are the lumps? Oh, no.
Heinz Homestyle gravy, so close to homemade.